be a jerk. So I think that's terrific.
Thank you. Yeah, I credit Coach Drew for allowing us to do it. Like he give us a lot of chances to impact the program, and so without him, we definitely wouldn't be where we at.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, we're going to keep this thing rolling, Coach. We appreciate it. We'll try to stay on time here. The next guy that I want to introduce is Wyking Jones. Wyking's had a long history in college basketball. He started off as an assistant at Loyola Marymount, where he played. He coached at Pepperdine as an assistant in New Mexico, at Louisville, where he won a national championship, and then recently was the head coach at Cal. And so what I'm gonna do is I've got about 12 or 13 questions that I've come up with that I'm just gonna kind of MC, and I'm gonna hit Coach Brooks and I'm gonna hit Coach Jones with different questions. I would be remiss if I didn't say we got a big time audience today. We got like 54 guys on here, but a couple guys I want to give a shout out to is Coach Tang. He's been doing a terrific job for so many years in the business, and at Baylor with Coach Brooks. And we also have Kareem Richardson on the call here, I believe. He was the head coach at UMKC and was also at Louisville, amongst other stops, and won a national championship there. Dwayne Broussard is on the line. He's got 20 years in the game and has been everywhere. Is at TCU now. And then Phil Pressey's on the line, who's a former big-time college basketball player and NBA player, and now trying to get in this business and doing this thing. And so I appreciate all you guys, Coach Tang, DB, and Kareem. Don't fall asleep, because I may toss one of these at you guys too, because you have so much experience and so much knowledge, and so I want to make sure we can cover the gamut and fill everybody's bucket the best we can. The first question that I have, and I'll let Wyking go, I explained this a little bit, but he can talk a little bit in more depth about it. But just tell us a little bit about your path and how you got to be the head coach at Cal.
Well, like you said, I started off at Loyola Marymount as an assistant, and I was playing ball overseas. And just to make a real quick how I got into coaching college basketball, and I would train in the summers at LMU where I played. And my head coach, John Olive, at the time, he lost one of his assistant coaches to the University of Oregon, Darren Kalish. And I'm in the gym training, and he comes in the gym and sees me working out. It's the summertime, and he says, I coached you. You're a coach. You need to start being a coach right now. I think you need to take this job and start your coaching career. And I'm like, dude, I'm still a hooper. I'm not a coach right now. I'm still a hooper. And he says, no, you need to start right now. And, I thought about it for a couple of days, and then I came back and I said, ultimately, I've played enough basketball. I do want to coach. And so I took the job. And some of these old heads on the line will know what I'm talking about. So I take the job. Coach never discussed to me what the job paid, right? So I'm overseas, and I'm making pretty good money playing ball overseas. My first job at LMU paid $18,000 for the year. So my bring home was $1,000 after taxes. And when I went to my head coach to talk about it, I said, man, you didn't tell me that this is what the job paid. He says, hey, you got to pay your dues. It ain't about money. If you want to be a coach, then you have to pay your dues. And I'm not going to fight for you to get any more money. I'm not going to do any of that. If you want to be a coach, then you have to pay your dues. And so I coached at LMU for 1 year, and we got fired. We got fired after my first year. And I say that to say that, in this journey of being a coach, getting fired is not – if you believe in what you bring to the table and you're a hard worker, then it just goes with the territory. It goes with the territory. And so I regrouped, and I went back and played some more ball overseas. And then I got to the point where I started to get the coaching itch again. And I interviewed at Pepperdine and got the job at Pepperdine under Paul Westphal. And I worked for Paul for 5 years. And then we got fired after 5 years, all right? So now here's 2 jobs as an assistant coach that ends with getting fired. And I said to myself, I had other opportunities to continue to be an assistant coach, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna do something different. And so I interviewed for Nike, and I went to Nike for 3 years, and I took a chance. I could have continued to coach, but I took a chance, and I did something different, and I thought outside of the box, and I went and worked for Nike for 3 years. And by working for Nike, I was able to have, the relationships that any college coach, head coach, will want on his staff. I was a travel team manager, and so I was in charge of 45 travel teams across the country. So I had those relationships with all 45 of those programs. And just by being at Nike for 3 years, now all of a sudden, I'm at LMU, I'm at Pepperdine, and all of a sudden, mid-major, high-major programs started to call. And I decided to take a job at New Mexico under Steve Alford. And I was there for 2 years. We won a lot of games. We did a really good job. Coach Broussard was on staff with me there. We had a lot of fun. We did some good things, and then I was able to get a job with Coach Pitino at Louisville, and I was there for 4 years, and we won a national championship, went to a Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, and Coach Richardson was on the staff with me there the year that we won the national championship, and then I did something different. We're having a lot of success at Louisville, and everything's going well, and I just said, you know what? I feel like I need to be back on the West Coast. I'm an Inglewood, California, LA guy, and it's not going to be the popular move for me to go leave this program and do something different because we're having so much success, and I'm working for a Hall of Fame coach.
I think we may have lost him.
I think so.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll come back to him. I'm going to mix it up here, and I want to throw this question. This wasn't in the cards, Coach Burton, so don't get mad at me, but we got too much knowledge on this line to let these guys sit idle here and not let these young guys hear them. But I would like to pose the next question to you, Coach Broussard. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the next question for you is tell us a few things you did along your journey that now looking back were crucial to your growth and your development and ultimately helped you land the job that you have today.
I like that question. It's a deep one. I think I'll just say this. I think you have to grow at the rate of change. You have to grow at the rate of change. So I tried to seek out individuals in this profession that had a wealth of knowledge, not just in basketball, but in the area of relationship building, leadership, even something as maybe uncommon as finance and business, to try to get different perspectives to bring back into the profession that we're in, because the bottom line is we have to figure out how to lead our young men better. And sometimes you can't find that knowledge within the profession itself. You have to go out and seek other streams of information. And so I use all those things that I learned from all those people, and read a lot, participate in a lot of seminars, and do a lot of research. And the bottom line is just trying to grow your knowledge as best as possible, because this business is forever changing. So that's what I did, and I find myself still doing that. I've been doing this now for over 27 years, and that longevity, I think, can be attributed to, again, the rate of my growth. And I would encourage every young coach out there, even coaches that have been in it a long time, to continue to grow. I once heard a man say that when does your brain stop learning? Well, your brain stops learning when you kind of form a habit, because when you form habits, you don't really want to grow anymore. So I have tried to put myself in very uncomfortable positions where there is some conflict, where you have to continue to grow. And I think it's been quite effective.
That's great. That's great. We have Wyking back, so we'll
Sorry
circle
about
back.
that, fellas. My
No,
laptop, I don't know what's going on, but so I'm on my phone now.
Okay, we'll circle back to you. We'll circle back to you, Coach.
Yes, that's all good. It's all good.
Okay, Coach Tang, I'd like to pose this question to you again. I'm working a little bit outside of the box, but I'm just you guys are so good, so knowledgeable, been in this thing so long. I'd love to hit you with a question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You got to turn your mute off. Can we get to him?
Coach Tank, you're on mute.
Oh, let me see what I got.
All right, there we go.
Coach Tang, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. I want to pose this question to you. What are some things that you hear about or that you see that young assistants are doing that are potential red flags for a guy like you that's going to be a potential head coach in any year now and you're going to need to fill a staff? What are some of the things you hear about or see that you go, no way?
Man.
He's bringing the heat today, Coach. He's bringing
He's
the
bringing
heat.
the heat. He's bringing the heat. Is this like truth or dare where you can pass it? I'll take the dare.
You can certainly pass it. You got to pass it to an old head.
I'll take that question, Monty.
Go ahead. Why?
I think the red flags is when the number one red flag is when you compete against your own staff. You have guys that I've been on staffs where, okay, so you're the lead guy on a certain recruit, and then that recruit comes into town on an unofficial visit. Unofficial visit's not the same as as an official visit. It's could be perceived as not that big a deal. And you have assistants that aren't participating in the unofficial visit. He's in his office. He's not around. He's nowhere to be found. While this other guy's, recruit is in town. And so I think that competing against your own staff, it's the same as being selfish. We tell our players to be team players and to sacrifice and to do the little things and to support your teammates and be a great teammate. And, sometimes, as an assistant coach, you can run into situations where, assistant coaches aren't being great teammates. And so to me, that's a definite red flag. And then the other thing is self-promoting. You can't be it's about the program, and it's about making that head coach look as good as you can make him look, because it'll come to you if the program has success. If the program has success, you will get your opportunity to move the way that you want to move. And, I see that, especially with the social media thing. You go on some of these assistant coaches' social media page, and it's like it's a commercial for them, not the program. And, if you want to turn a head coach off, be that guy, because at the end of the day, we won a national championship at Louisville. I was on staff with Kareem Richardson and Kevin Keats. And to this day, we text each other every day. And that was way back in 2013. And we had each other's back. If I had to go out of town to go recruit and part of my responsibilities for a scout or something, I knew that I could turn to Kareem or Kevin and say, man, can you cover me on this? And it wasn't going to be an issue at all. And they knew that they could turn to me and do the same thing. We knew that we could all vent to each other, and it was going to be between the three of us. It wasn't going to be, well, coach is saying this, that, and it's a bigger audience than just the three of you. And so I just think that being a great, we demand it of our players. We got to demand it of ourselves when we're a part of someone's staff.
That's a great answer. Great answer. Coach Tang, you ain't off the Budweiser hot seat.
No. I think the social media thing is probably the thing that the young guys that I follow, if I follow some of them, I would say what they put on social media, and they have to understand that, like we tell our guys, everything you put on there, is public view. You don't have a small audience, and can come back and get you at any time. But like Wyking, I've been blessed to be part of staffs where guys really check their egos, and we actually. I mean, I love every one of the guys. I'm lying. There's only one dude that I've ever worked with that I can tell you I wouldn't have over my house for dinner. Okay, and at Baylor. And that's the honest to goodness truth right there. But I love these dudes, man. And I celebrate their successes. Paul Mills, Grant McCaslin, Matt Driscoll, them dudes. I celebrate their success. Well, like a Saturday is not a good Saturday if all of us don't win. If one of us loses, it's a bad Saturday. And that's just and these dudes. Al and John, the two guys I work with now, if I was blessed to be a head coach before they came to Baylor, those were the two guys I would try to hire. And so, I'm always looking for dudes that I would hire for myself. And I've been blessed that when being at Baylor for this long, when these guys move on and get head jobs, I'm still there. Then I get to tell coach, hey man, I would have hired this dude, and they get to come in and then I get to work with the guys. So I look at it more like not what guys are doing wrong, but the dudes who are out there doing it right,
Yep.
And what I see and how they are, those are the kind of guys I try to, get with and cling to and follow and pay attention to in that manner.
That's great.
Another thing, Monty, one more thing. One of the things that I look at as well when I watch games is, and it's kind of funny, but sit your ass down on the sideline if you're an assistant coach. Help coach, help the team win. But I see a lot of guys, they're on the sideline and they're trying to make the camera find them when they're on the sideline. They're trying to, fist pumping and doing different things. And I've worked with guys like that where it's like, it's not about you, man. Just coach. Just coach and be an assistant. And when you get your opportunity to be the head coach, you can stand up and you can be the head coach and the camera will be on you. But while you're an assistant, be an assistant.
Yep, that's good stuff.
Hey, with that, it's like I told you, it's one dude that I wouldn't invite to my house. Like I found out years later that like when you get your schedule at the beginning of the year, guys would pick certain scouts and because they knew which games would be on TV. Now all of our games are on TV, but they would pick what games would be on TV because they'd be the one getting up doing the talking and stuff. And what was great. Now I make sure that all the TV, the bigger TV games that Al and John do them, unless it's a team I've scouted before, but I make sure they do them because, if our thing is joy, Jesus, others than yourself, that's what we do, then I want to push them out there in front. So, I mean, that's part. And like, even if the other guys on your staff don't think that way, and this is for the guys on here, if you think that way and you work that way, you'll get blessed regardless of what they're doing. You'll get blessed for it. So,
yep. I'd like to.
I'm still in that tank. I'm still in that joy.
I'd like to
go ahead. I stole it.
I'd like to throw something in there based off of Wyking, what you said, and this is just something that I've gotten from different search committees as I have went through the path of becoming a head coach and so on and so forth. But there's also an element of where I watch games too, and I see guys that when there is a timeout. Now again, every staff's you have different responsibilities, but sometimes I see when there's a timeout, guys are not in the timeout. They're watching the stands. They're watching the cheerleaders. They're checking to see out what's going on. And I always find that, and I've heard from search firms that they've seen that, and that's turned guys off because they didn't feel like they were coaching or being a part of the coaching part of the game. And so I would be very cautious of what you're doing in timeouts, especially if you're just you don't have a responsibility and you're just looking like, hey, I'm just hanging out. Get yourself in the huddle and know what's going on. The next question will go for AB3. and you may not have an answer for this, but that's okay. We'll go down the line. What is your most difficult part of your job being an assistant at Baylor?
Most difficult part of my job, man.
Or
That's a great question.
responsibility?
You know, people gonna say this is a political answer, but I don't really have like the most difficult part. Probably is just being away from my family, but that's every job. But it's not something to where I think Coach Drew has created a great environment, and like Coach Tang say, like our staff is like different. Like we don't have the meeting after the meeting. Like we're able to be men enough to like let our frustrations out in a room with everybody, the whole staff, and then when we walk out, it's over. Like we're all on the same page. So if you'd asked me this a couple, you know, not maybe a couple jobs ago, then I probably could have told you a lot. But I don't really have. I think some of the stuff that's been most difficult in my past is I was the one that had the best relationships with the players, but I wasn't allowed to coach. And so I've been in meetings to where they say, okay, coach, you got offense, coach, you got defense. Then they look at me and say, what you want? What else is it? Special teams? You know, so I think that's the most difficult part is just being a part of staffs to where you're not valued as a coach, you're only valued as a recruiter. But I'm not in that situation now. So to me, that's the most frustrating part. Like, I don't care about money. Like, you're not going to pay me a lot of money to just be a recruiter. Like, my goal is to make sure that I'm able to make an impact all the way around and not just bring the players in.
And I hope you guys, you know, got a chance to really hear that, because he said something early on that I caught, in that he said that he has implemented a couple, and I'm sure it's way more than just two things, but two things that he presented at Baylor he implemented. And I can tell you this right now, that he doesn't get a chance to implement those things if Coach Drew didn't trust him and believe in him. And so there has to be something that he's doing on his part, you know, from his relationships with the players, from his individual workouts, from his scouting, something that Coach Drew goes, hey, whatever this guy says, hey, we're going to roll with because I trust him and I believe in him. And that's something that Herb Sendek did for us at Arizona State, and I think was tremendous for all of our growth, you know, as that whole staff became head coaches. So that's good stuff. Kareem, I'm gonna try to get you in on this, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next question I have for you is it's a two-part question. And I wanted you to take back to your days as being an assistant on this question. But what job duties do you wish you had more knowledge of? That's the first one. And the second one is other than player development, recruiting, and scouting, what are two other jobs you would tell young guys you must learn how to do if you want to become a head coach?
Real quick, Coach Smith, did you already introduce Coach Kareem so everybody knows who he is?
I gave a little bit of a shout out to him. So, but Kareem Richardson, former head coach of UMKC, he's been all over the planet as an assistant. Now he is an assistant coach. He's doing a terrific job. He's got a plethora of knowledge, won a national championship, as Wyking mentioned, at Louisville. Is coached everywhere.
Monty, will you repeat that one again for me?
Yeah. So the first question is you know, what jobs do you wish you had more knowledge of when you were sitting in that assistant position and you went to, say, when you were at Drake or wherever you were at? And then the other part of it is that other than recruiting, scouting, and player development, what are two jobs that you would tell young guys you must know this to become a head coach?
Yeah, I think I can tie that all into one, to be honest with you. I would say two things that I wish and I would recommend is to your public speaking. I would say, you know, anytime that you can get out there, and I started learning this later as an assistant coach, and I would tell people, you know, that are aspiring to be head coaches is to work on your public speaking game. And I've always said it, Monty, in Think Tank and things that we've done in the past is developing your team around you. And I think one important team that we part of our team, when I say that, is Team Kareem, and that's having somebody that's going to help you with your public speaking and having the confidence to go out there in front of boosters, in front of, if you have a banquet or whatever it may be, to have that confidence to go out there and speak like you got some fucking sense, basically. And so I think tying that all into one of those jobs that as you're aspiring to, and I learned it later. And I think the other thing too, I know King and you guys have talked about self-promotion. I think there is some things that we all have to do in terms of a networking. For me, getting a part of the Villa later in my assistant coaching career, I think was a big part. All of us on here, we work our asses off, but to be able to get ourselves in front of ADs and get ourselves in front of commissioners or whatever you're aspiring to do. I think if we can do that, and you can do that and get yourself become, for me, to be Missouri Valley assistant coach, be on that board, different boards and committees, to where I think you're looked differently than just being, as AB said in some of his positions, being a recruiter, to where people know that you can handle yourself as a head coach, as an assistant.
That's great. That's great. Wyking, you want to jump in on that one too?
Yeah, I think that in the summer when you got a little bit more downtime and things aren't as hectic, I would encourage any assistant coach to pick an offense and just study it. Find out as much as you can about that offense, all the nuances in and out, as well as a defense that you aren't currently running, and get to know that offense, get to know that defense. And when you feel comfortable with it, have a sit down with your head coach and say, hey, coach, I've been studying this. Based on our personnel, I think this could really help us. I think that this defense could really help us. I think that this offense could really help us. So now you're putting yourself in a situation where you're able to teach. You're able to bring something to the staff other than just recruiting. And your head coach will start to look at you more of and not to say that all head coaches would look at an assistant as just a recruiter, but you're putting yourself in a situation where you're able to bring something to the program to help that's other than recruiting. So I would encourage any assistant coach to do that.
Awesome. Tang, I'm gonna circle back to you on this one.
Okay. Man, I agree with Kareem on the public speaking, and this is because most people don't know that we know how to put a subject and a verb and and an adjective together. They don't. And I can't tell you, I was a youth pastor for 8 years, so I stood up in front of congregations and spoke, and I had no problem doing it. And then the first time I did it in a position at Baylor, I had people come up to me and were so surprised how well, I was able to speak. And I was like, what the heck y'all think I was doing all my life? And so we know it, but they don't know it unless you put yourself out there to do it. So that's a definite, the public speaking. And I've been listening to these podcasts, and there's a Dr. Bernine Brown, and she's an expert. She studies vulnerability, right? And then there's Dr. Harriet Lerner, and she's an expert on apology, right? Just how to apologize the right. She's an expert. They pay her money to travel around and teach people the rights and wrongs in apologizing. And it's the same way with the game of basketball, just what Wyking is saying. It's not just offense and defense. There are aspects of defense, post defense, post offense. There's aspects of defeating screens, just different ball screen hedges. And you should pick something every summer and try and become an expert in it. It might take you a couple summers. Become an expert in it, because now you can answer questions when it's brought up. And then my boss is a statistical guy, right? So it's not a feel for him, it's statistics. I'm a feel person. So I don't relay numbers very well, but God blessed me to be able to be on a staff with Coach Brooks, who's a finance guy. So when I have something I need to get across to Coach Drew, and I know that the way I would say it, he wouldn't understand it as well, I go to Al and I say, bruh, can you put these into numbers and get it across to this dude about something? and he will put a chart together. He'll put the numbers together. He will go explain it to Coach Drew. And I don't care who gets it across, but that what I'm saying is that, become an expert in an area, and then people will constantly pay you for information in that area. And so I mean, those two things those guys said, for personally in my life, they have been invaluable. Those aspects.
That's big time.
Hey, Monty. Just to reiterate on what Coach Tang and Kareem are talking about. How many times have we all heard someone say, "Oh, well, why hasn't this guy gotten a job?" or "Why hasn't this guy gotten a job?" And they say he doesn't interview well. And that speaks to what Kareem and Coach Tang is talking about. When you sit down in front of an AD, sometimes it's not just the AD that you're going to sit down and sell yourself to. Sometimes it's a committee. Sometimes they put together 5, 6, 7 different people that are helping make the decision on who the next head coach is going to be at that particular university. So when Coach Richardson talks about being able to public speak, that's a part of it. Being able to articulate in an interview exactly what your vision is, exactly who you are, and what you bring to that program, why you should be the head coach. And so when he's talking about public speaking, interviewing is part of that.
Yeah, it's funny when I had my
Monty,
first.
can I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead, Kareem.
Mike, I got something too. Yeah.
And also on the I think it's so huge, man. And we've all probably been, I know I've been on staffs where, some of the guys on there can't present in front of their own team. And just think about if you can't present your scout in front of your team without the uhs and knows and, all that stuff, when you haven't said anything, and you quickly lose your team when it becomes your scout. I mean, think about how powerful that is. Like I know I've been on teams where it's a particular coach's scout, and because he can't articulate and he can't get his points across and he doesn't know what he's talking about the other team or film work, guys are tapping each other and they're like, "Yo, man, like Coach Rich, man, he's got this scout. Oh shoot, is he gonna get?" You know what I mean? So we've got to. It's so freaking huge, man, to be able to not only with the boost, but to be able to articulate your points and get out of your points in an efficient and concise way with your players as well.
Monty, can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
So let me touch on something that Coach Tang talked about. He talked about vulnerability, right? And vulnerability sometimes creates fear in all of us. And so I think you have to be able to attack that fear and vulnerability. So I'm going to tell you, this was probably a couple of years ago. I never thought that I had an issue with public speaking, okay? But there are some things that would get me nervous about speaking in front of groups, in particular, whether it was basketball concepts or whatever, or having an interview. So what I did is I sought the expertise of an executive coach. And I'm not suggesting that any of you do that, but if you need help, you can go get it. And this person that I've dealt with, we meet once a month and we talk about different issues, and she helps me with messaging. So here's the deal. Each one of you right now, you probably, if you hadn't already been a head coach, this is something that you probably want to do. All right. So you have to treat yourself as a business. Okay. You have to treat yourself as an investment. You have to get better at things that you're not already better at. So it is nothing to, I should say nothing, but to attack your vulnerability, there's ways to get better at that, fellas. And I'm telling you, public speaking is something that you will do for the rest of your life. So don't be afraid to go out and seek help. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I want to make that point really, really clear. So.
Hey, Coach, along those lines, man, I did Toastmasters, and I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's a public speaking organization, man, that as a young assistant coach, I would do it like a couple of times a month, go and just work on my speaking, man. And I think it's huge to what y'all are talking about. And that's something that it's a nationwide organization. So as an assistant coach, look it up. There's probably a Toastmasters close to you, man, and just go in, and it's a chance to work on your public speaking, because that's a huge part of, as far as being a head coach.
Hey, even closer to home, we're all on college campuses. There are speech professors. There are people who are experts in the field of interpersonal communication, one-on-one interviews, that if you go talk to them, they'll be fired up because you're the basketball coach, first of all, just to talk with you. And then they will give you some real good guidance that can help you to grow as a person. So, I mean, we have a whole communication department at Baylor, and I know those guys over there because I've taken some classes with them, and they've helped me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, Coach Tang, is that, obviously everybody's in, different parts of the country and have different resources. But, when we were at the Villa 7, I say I know Jones has been, I know several of these guys have been, they would tell you, hey, as you're getting prepared for an interview, you got to get in front of the mirror and you got to be able to recite your stuff and know it and articulate it. And so, hey, maybe you don't have the resource to seek out someone professionally, but tape record yourself. You know what sounds good and what doesn't sound good. Have somebody who you respect, an English teacher or some, anybody. Hey, listen to this recording. I'm presenting on, 1-3-1 defense. Tell me what you think, and get some feedback there. But there's so many different ways, as Coach Broussard said, and Coach Tang, to skin a cat. So don't hold yourself in a box and say, I don't have the resources and I can't get that accomplished. Let's move to the next question here. I'll go back to that one last thing. Like Coach Jones said, my first interview was at Montana State. And when I walked into the room, there was 20 people on the committee. So you're not talking about presenting in front of one or two people. There were 20 people. There were people from the community. There were boosters. There were former players. And, when I walked in there, I was like, holy shit, But then once I got going, we were able to articulate what I wanted to do with the program. And it just ended up not the right fit. Got down to the very final two, but just didn't work out for me. But it didn't have anything to do with me, stumbling, bumbling over my words. It just wasn't a great fit. But let's move on to the next question. And I'm gonna pose this to Coach Tang, and then anybody else who wants to jump in on this that has been talking most certainly can. As African American coaches, what are some of the things that we can do more of to help each other and ourselves continue to develop and grow?
Well, I mean, it's crazy that it took a pandemic to get us to do this. And I heard somebody, and fellas, nothing that I say is original. All right. I'm one of the best plagiarizers in the world. And being a preacher and a basketball coach, you get to plagiarize and not get in trouble. All right. So, the thing is that we see ourselves too many times as enemies rather than competitors. And see, enemies don't like each other. Competitors respect each other. And I think our seeing each other as enemies causes us not to share and help. And because, I mean, don't you want to play against the best? I mean, they would tell our guys want to play against the best. Well, why wouldn't I want to, help somebody be better, and then I have better competition? If iron really sharpens iron, why am I always trying to make the other guy be wood, So I think that's one of the things that we need to be willing to share and help each other. And when I was growing up watching college basketball, there was John Thompson, there was Nolan Richardson, there was John Chaney. And those dudes, man, they for Nolan Richardson and John Chaney, I think they put their careers on the line to open doors for other young coaches. And and John Thompson, I mean, my man walked out of a game because he wanted to send a message to the NCAA that the guidelines they were putting on, eligibility and entrance for freshmen was culturally biased. Today, we don't have a head coach that's willing to risk their salary to do that. And I mean, that's just how it is. The money's gotten so big that it's gotten bigger than the cause. And I think we don't see it as a cause, that we have to help each other. And that is not a race thing, that's a human thing, and because the civil rights movement would not have accomplished what it accomplished had it not been for the help of all the races. And so for us, we have to be willing to help the next guy and be willing to correct the next guy. And the next guy has to be willing, open, and coachable for it. And so, I've been so proud of Al. He started to be ready for him, and we've, been helping younger coaches. And, sometimes we get so caught up tunnel vision in us that just what we're doing, that we don't see the opportunities that God has opened for us to be able to impact other people's lives, and even if they're on another staff. And so, and sometimes staffs, I mean, I've there've been times in our league where there've been a person that I considered a friend on the other staff, and I go to shake their hands before the game, and I've been told, hey man, my head coach don't like me, mingling before the game, and so I understand it. I mean, I understand that sometimes your head coach has certain things on, but we can't see each other that way, and this has been a great opportunity to do that, because I mean, I admire so many people on here. I cheer for you guys. I want y'all to be successful. Those who are head coach, you're successful. It opens an opportunity for me, and now I just feel like I don't care if I get an opportunity, but it'll happen one day or not. But I want to make sure that we're doing something to help the next guy and make it easier for the next person to have an opportunity. So
that's great. That's great.
This is Monty. Let me piggyback on that. And this is something that anytime I have an opportunity to speak to a young a young assistant coach, I always give them this recommendation, and it's something that's so simple. It's so simple. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's so simple. When it's your time. So when I was at Pepperdine, I worked for Paul Westphal, and Paul didn't care that when it was your time to do your scout, that you took note cards, paper, different things out on the floor when you were giving your scout. And Coach Broussard can attest to this. So when I got the job at New Mexico, Steve Alford, hey man, Ryan Miller was on that staff as well. He said, hey, when it's time for you to give your scout, don't bring any notes out there, because either you know it or you don't know it. Mm-hmm. And that was great for me. It was great for me that, hey, you got to run off 13, 14, 15 plays off the dome, and it's okay, because you know what that team does inside out. So it's just second nature to be able to present it that way. So what happened was Steve Alford, he would want the top 10 plays that someone would run that you would see. So when I made the transition from New Mexico to Louisville, Coach Richardson can attest to this. Coach Pitino wanted every single play that you ever saw that team run. And if he saw them run a play during the game and you hadn't covered it, that was going to be your ass. You was going to have to hear about it. You was going to have to hear about it. And so I just developed as an assistant coach the ability to digest everything that I saw on film that somebody ran. And, you know, it could be as deep as 25, 30 plays with Coach P, but you just had to adjust to it and you had to push yourself and make it happen. So any coach that's on this call, I would say, get to the point where when it's your time to present your scout, you don't need notes. And I want and pay attention to what how the players will view that, how your head coach, if you're an assistant, will view that when they see that, hey, he really knows this team to the point where this dude ain't got no notes and he's running off 15, 20 plays. And so I would recommend, anytime I get a chance to speak to young assistant coaches, I always recommend that.
That's great. That's great. You know, the thing I would say too of Coach Tang and Coach Jones is that obviously we're in a situation that's unprecedented for our country, unprecedented for our own households. And so it's given us some time to stop and reflect and be able to also work on ourselves and our families and so on and so forth. And so my challenge would be that when we come out of this quarantine, when you get back to normal life, what are you going to be able to do to continue to help yourself develop, but also what are you going to be able to do to impact somebody else? And so, you know, hey, I'm obviously, I understand that, you know, I know the day-to-day grind of being a Division I assistant coach or JUCO or whatever it may be, but we still have to make sure we have these type of things going on that we can help each other, you know, and whether it be, hey, we decide that we want to take this to the Final Four and hop on the floor and have different guys present, you know, hey, pick and roll offense or pick and roll defense or whatever it may be. But I think we need to continue to try to push each other to try to grow and get better.
Can I answer that? So with this Be Ready that we've started, so the first 20 minutes before we start, like we used to show motivational stuff, ET and Inky, and just different stuff. Well, now we go YouTube live. So I've asked coaches to send me up to 5 minutes, up to 10 minutes of you teaching something basketball related. And the response haven't been great. So how do we change that? Like I want dudes to show that they're more than a recruiter, more than a video guy, more than operations, like more than whatever position that you may be. And like it's to the point to where like now I don't like I'm gonna have to start making up something for 20 minutes just because we don't have enough coaches. I don't know if they're not comfortable enough or if they're afraid that they're gonna make a mistake. But it's amazing that the few guys that have that the response have been tremendous for them as far as showing that they know what they're talking about. And we had one coach, it took him like 100 takes, but he did it and he got the response has been amazing because he taught some basketball wise and now he's looked at differently because of that.
Now, I'm not the smartest guy on here by any means, but I just heard a few things before. Coach Tang has basically said that he is responsible for hiring the Baylor staff at Baylor. And so now you have an opportunity to get with Coach Brooks and to present some basketball stuff because you said that you don't get to coach, some of us don't get to coach with our current programs, but then we don't want to take those opportunities. You have to come out of your comfort zone and teach, if you want to get better. I mean, that's just how it goes. The only how you're going to get better, we tell our guys all the time, is repetition. And so how are you going to be able to get those reps? So what a great opportunity. So I would hope that next week, whenever you guys have your deal, you've got 5 or 6 guys on this call who would love to jump on there.
Yeah, Monty, I would, with all you guys, man, I think everybody's said some really, really good stuff. And AB, that point, kind of goes along back with the, your public speaking and being able to get out there and coach. Other things, that I'd say too is, Lamont's been a big part of this, Diedrich of the, things. And I know Justin's been there and King's been there. Some of you guys have been on there are things, we're talking about sharing and the vulnerability that Broussard's talked about and Tang have talked about of getting out and putting ourselves in position, like with the think tank that's been going on, man, like, to our point, this is kind of easy. And so to speak, but for me, going out to Cal State Fullerton, man, I'm all the way out in the Midwest, and I invest, and I think it was Coach Tang talked about it, or Broussard, investing in yourselves, man. There's plenty of things to get out there and go to that aren't necessarily easy, but putting ourselves where we're out there sharing knowledge and sharing real, keeping it as people say, keeping it as real as possible, and going out there and sharing ideas amongst us, and can't be afraid to go do those type of things. The other thing I would suggest too is, man, they're always at NCAA Final Fours. They are always looking for people to give demonstrations, and that's a big time opportunity for guys to go. Whether, for me, I went out there and I spoke at one of the Final Fours. I spoke about pressure defense and pressing and whatnot, and finding out how to go, and how it is. They got a million different type of presentations to do, and as soon as you're able to do that and you get that, man, your credibility just goes through the roof. Man, this dude performed. He presented at the Final Four. So now you got people from the NCAA that, like, we all know how this business is just word of mouth and it's gossip. Man, I heard AB speak at the Final Four. Man, this guy must. Let me go dive in and see what he's about. Let me go to a practice. Let me go to a Baylor game and see what he's about on the sidelines. And AD starts speaking and snowballing those type of things, man. But we can't be afraid to be vulnerable in those type of situations and go invest in ourselves and spend a little money on ourselves, to go fly out to Cal State Fullerton for the think tank and spend 2.5 days out there and socialize and visit and share ideas and whatnot.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to go back to you, Wyking, and since you're out of the business right now with like myself, I'm going to ask you a tough question. It's going to be two tough questions, and then we'll finish it with a pretty fun one here. But the first question I have, and this is for we talk about recruiting a lot, obviously as an assistant coach. You get a chance to recruit, and there's times where you put yourself in some tough situations. But the question is this: is that have you ever been in a compromising situation in recruiting with someone wanting something from you? Mm-hmm. If so, how'd you handle the situation, or how would you handle the situation, and how would you give young guys advice to get out of a situation that could be tough for them?
Well, in the past, I've handled the situation where you softly say, "Oh man, we don't get down like that." But then at the same time, you try to continue to recruit the kid after you already know that dad wants to get paid, right? So you think that, I'm going to pull something off. I'm going to pull off a miracle and still recruit the kid and still get the kid without paying for the kid, even though I know that that's what dad or mom or uncle or AAU coach or whoever I know that that's what they want. And so you continue to recruit the kid and you're just wasting time. They've already told you what they want. They already told you what it's going to take. When you find yourself in a situation where someone is asking for something, then you just got to move on. You got to stop recruiting the kid at that point, because at that point you're just wasting their time and you're wasting your own time. So I would say that if you don't get down like that, let them know you don't get down like that. And you probably need to just go ahead and step away from that situation and continue and recruit somebody else, because you're not going to pull off a miracle and still get the kid when they've already shown their hand and told you what they want.
Kareem, you want to jump in on that one? Yeah, I agree with Wyking wholeheartedly on that, man. Like, if it's not what you do, just step away from it, and don't put yourself in a compromising position that's going to screw up your career, your reputation. And because I tell you, the way things have moving and are moving, obviously with all of the FBI and all of that stuff, man, like, guys are going to be looking for guys that reputation is about doing the right thing. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I think it's going to be shifting here. If it hasn't already, then there's no reason to screw up your reputation for some stuff that somebody's going to be able to hold over your head when it's all said and done.
No doubt. And trust me, guys, when I tell you, and we could do a whole nother Zoom, that it doesn't take long. I've tried to build up my reputation for 18 years, 20 years coaching, and thought I did a great job, and two bad decisions had really cost me, and now I'm trying to find my way and rebuild myself and fight and all those things that we always do. But you better make sure that the decisions that you make and the people that are around you are on point, because it can quickly turn on you really quick.
Hey, just a practical scenario in that, like, for a while it was, when I first started, when you went to see a kid, the high school coach, the AAU coach, whoever it was, you had to meet with them. Them jokers always wanted to meet at a restaurant, right? Because they wanted you to buy their meal. And it's a violation, right? And so what I would say is, hey man, I can't ahead of time. Hey, I can't buy your meal. I'd love to meet with you, but I can't buy your meal. And when they made that face, look like, I'd go, hey man, you want me to lose my job over a $10 meal? The way I take care of my family over a $10 meal? And nobody who's sane in their right mind gonna look at you and say, yes, I want you to do that. And it kind of sets the tone right there. And I have guys who, like, good friends, I'll call on a kid and they'll say, you can't recruit this one. And I know exactly what they're talking about. And then they'll call me and say, hey, I got one you can recruit. But it's like Wyking said, it saves time because you're not going to switch them. But that's just something that I taught Coach Drudis, because Coach Drudis is the nicest dude in the world. He don't know how to tell people no. And I'd have to go, hey, bro, we're not losing our job for a $10 meal now. So we can eat it. We can meet at Starbucks. We can have some water. But if you're going to eat, you got to pay for yours. And so set the tone early, just like you would if you was the head coach in your program or whatever, however you want the drill ran, you set the tone early. And those guys will adapt, and you'll know who you can and who you can't recruit. And the apple, let me tell you, that apple tree is full of apples now. It's not just one apple on that tree. We fight like it's one apple on the tree. It's apples all the way around that tree. Okay, so you don't have to like go after just that one apple and think that that's all there is.
That's great. That's great. Wyking, I'll circle back to you on this one. Looking back at your time at Cal, what are some things that you would have done differently that maybe in your mind would have helped change the outcome? Now, obviously, I'm a good friend of yours, and I'm a little bit biased because, you know, you just got such a short time to prove that you can do anything. But I think also we have to understand that sometimes we don't get all of those. We don't get the 5 or 6 or 7 years that we think that we may get. And so if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when I first got fired, and I don't a lot of guys in this business, they're afraid of that word, getting fired. But that's, you know, if you're in this business for any amount of time, it's gonna happen at some point. And it's all about how you bounce back from that. In my introduction, I was talking about as an assistant the number of times that I got fired. It didn't stop me from becoming a head coach. It didn't stop me from achieving the ultimate goal. It's just all about how you respond and how you pick yourself up when that happens. And so when I first got fired, you know, it was all about, well, I didn't, you know, this kid couldn't play. You know, you're pointing the fingers in all the other directions, But then as time goes along and you really get a chance to really sit with yourself and digest the fact that, okay, I got fired. Where did I go wrong? What could I have done different? And one of the things that I'll say to you guys, aspiring head coaches, especially if it's your first job, I hired a very veteran staff, and I felt like I could give my staff a voice in and out of my practices. And, you know, I allowed my veteran assistants to speak, to do things in practice, to cover certain drills, to cover certain things, to cover certain defenses, to do a lot of things. But when you're a first-time head coach, you don't have the equity or the reputation or the experience to do those things. That team and program needs to know that it is your program. It is your vision. It is your ultimate decisions that are going to be made on how things are going to go. So my suggestion to anybody on this call is, it doesn't matter how veteran your staff is. Your voice and your hands and your imprint needs to be on every single thing that happens in that, no matter, you could divvy up some drills in practice, but you better have your insights and input on those drills as well as your assistant throughout that 10-minute segment. Because your players need to know, hey, this is coach's shit. When it gets to the point where your players are asking assistants questions about, well, what about that? Then things aren't going in the right direction. You need to take control of that situation. So my suggestion to any assistant coach that wants to be a head coach or any first-time head coaches, until you gain some equity and some experience, make sure, and it's exhausting. Trust me, fellas, 2.5-hour practice, having to be engrossed in every single play for 2.5 hours, day in, day out. It's exhausting, but you have to make sure that your hands and your voice is all over that program. And so I think that, you know, I gave my assistants, and it's not a knock against my assistants because I allowed it. I gave my assistants almost too much voice. Another thing is, I was never really into analytics because, you know, the guys that I worked for weren't really into analytics. So you know, Conzo Martin wasn't huge on analytics. Rick Pitino wasn't big on analytics. Steve Alford at the time wasn't big on analytics. He may be now, but he wasn't at the time when we were in New Mexico. And so here's a funny story for you guys. A kid, and we all know what this is. kid puts his name in the transfer portal. And I dig into analytics. Me and my assistant dig into analytics to get him to stay. We're going to go into the analytics. We're going to go into stats to say you're playing this number of minutes, you're getting this number of shots, you're doing, you're getting all the opportunity in the world to be successful here. And as we dig into the analytics, we start to see that, fuck, man, this dude's not rebounding. This dude is not taking charges. This dude is not assisting the way that he should be at his position. He's not getting to the free throw line. He's not getting fouled. And I started looking at it going, why the fuck was I playing this dude 34 minutes a fucking game? And I said to my assistant, I said, man, I should have been paying more attention to analytics, because as I looked at the numbers, there was another kid that I wasn't playing as many minutes that was way more efficient than the dude that I was playing all the minutes. So the kid that I was playing 22 minutes a game was rebounding, was assisting, was taking charges, was getting to the, and you don't, it all happens so quick throughout the season. It's like game after game after game that you're not really taking the time to really digest all that or really look into that, because you're focused on who the next opponent is. And so I would have put more stock in the analytics if I, the next time I get a job, if I'm fortunate enough to get a job on any staff that I would be a part of as an assistant moving forward, I would put more stock in the analytics.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
And then the last thing is trust your gut, man. Trust your gut. Sometimes you can overthink things. Trust your gut, and in today's game, we all know, with social media, we can't talk to these dudes the way that we got talked to when we played. You got to be real careful when the guys come into your office. Hey man, put your cell phone on the desk, because So trust your gut and take all of that stuff out of the equation, because you'll find yourself overthinking things because of social media. You'll find yourself playing guys that probably should be playing as many minutes because of social media, or you got them off an AAU program that you're going to have to go back to get another kid. The hell with all that, man. Trust your gut, and do what it is that you should be doing.
It's awesome. Back to the beginning, what you said is, obviously having a year to go back and be reflective of some of the things that you did wrong and so on and so forth. And I've certainly had a chance to do that this year as well. And one of the books that I'm currently reading right now is called Extreme Ownership. And it's about leadership. And it's just about, exactly what it says, taking ownership of what you have done and what you can do. But I highly suggest this. It's a Navy SEAL book, easy reads, got great stories, and but it'll hit you right in the head when you want to start to try to point the finger and look at everybody else and not yourself. But we'll wrap this thing up with one final question.
Hey, can we get Kareem's take on that?
Yeah, that'd be great. Kareem, did we?
Yeah, my ass got fired. Yeah, I can get some take on it. Yeah, the one thing that I would say with Wyking said is the analytics. Same thing. I didn't work for guys that were big on analytics, and looking back on it, that is the one true thing that I would do differently if I got an opportunity again is analytics. No question about it. And the next thing that looking back on and things that I would really change is getting the opportunity. And I know, man, like it's easy for me to say because I was a head coach and all that stuff, and being patient is difficult. I mean, I was an assistant for 17 years before I got the opportunity at UMKC, and mine was man, it's a situation that never happens. King can tell you, Keats can tell you, I didn't have to interview for my job. Like they came after me and this and that, and that doesn't happen. I don't care, black, white, Hispanic, whatever it is, that doesn't happen that often. So if you want to call it pressure or whatever it may be, the opportunity. But if you have the ability to be patient and get it and have opportunity, I can't necessarily take the blame on it, but an opportunity to be at a program where the resources, and Coach P always talked about this, and UMKC was not. If your resources are in the top 3 of your program, no matter what top 3 of your league, no matter what the league is, that's a good job. UMKC was not that. But because I wasn't patient enough to, coming off of a championship year, and although I was named the head coach before we had even finished the year off, but if you have the patience enough to get a job that's top 3 resources in your league, then you give yourself a fair shake at it. And the other thing that I would say that I think is always overlooked, and UMKC did not have it, is history. And what I mean by history, we were in a pretty big market, Kansas City. There's plenty of probably our level talent, slightly above Missouri Valley level talent in the area. Great recruiting area. But when we talked about UMKC, there was no history. Not a little. There was no history at UMKC. We were the only program to get to postseason play in UMKC Division I history. And so when you're talking about recruiting Kansas City and recruiting St. Louis or what have you, because of the fact that there wasn't any history, kids didn't really take us seriously. Like it was really hard, man, to get kids in our own city, in our own backyard to come on campus. I mean, that's how as big as Kansas City is, man, they just didn't respect what we had and what we were building. And so I would say resources, top 3, and having some history really helps. I mean, you got like in our league, New Mexico, or was in our league, New Mexico State, they have history, and they have some other things that are going on. But bottom line is they have history, and they're in the top 1 or 2, top 3 of resources in the league. And what do they do every year? They go out and kick everybody's ass. Chris Jans hasn't lost a conference game in, 3 years. And so, but they have that history and have those things. And I think those are important. But the analytical for my own doing, analyticals, being much more analytical to basketball, and again, just making sure your staff is last thing I'll say is make sure your staff complements your needs. And whatever that may be, you obviously have to judge what your strengths are as a head coach, going into being that head coach, and making sure that you're recruiting a staff that's going to complement the things that you need, and only you can answer those things.
That's great.
Monty, can I just one thing to piggyback on what Kareem said? Staff is the most important thing and decision that you have to make when you get a head coaching job. And here's a suggestion from me to you guys. Your staff does not have to be all your boys. It's not a situation where you finally got the job and you want to go hire all the guys you trust and love. Because the guys that you trust and love, if there's a time where you have to get in their ass, it's not going to resonate the same as a guy that you heard about, that is a grinder, that's not necessarily a friend of yours, but he does a great job, and he does a great job on someone else's staff. That guy is probably more beneficial to you than one of your buddies that's in the business, because you want to keep it family. Screw that. You want a staff that when you're upset, they know it and they respond. If you're not happy, they know it, and they want to do everything they can to make sure that you're good. That's what you want out of your staff. It doesn't hiring your boys. That's not the way to go. Even though it feels good and it sounds good and it looks good on paper because you got history with those guys, I would say make sure that you got some guys on your staff that you probably have never worked with and don't really know that well, but you know their work ethic, and they've had some people that vouch for them.
That's good stuff. We're going to finish it up with one last question, and we're going to start with AB3, and then we'll go to Tang, and then we'll go to Y, and then we'll end it with Kareem. And try to guys, for time's sake, we've been on here for a couple hours. Let's try to keep it to like 1 minute so we can get out of here. And then if anybody else has any questions after that, we can rock and roll. But AB3, I heard you, as you talked about Baylor and you talked about the things that you guys do there, you have great admiration for Coach Drew, and we all know his pedigree and the success that he's had at Baylor. But can you tell us a little bit of what you think separates him and what makes him an elite level Division I coach?
First is energy. I think he has great energy every single day, no matter what. I'm blessed to have the office right next to him, so I hear the energy on the phone. He's probably one of the few head coaches that walked in and spoke to me every single day, no matter if we won or lost a game the day before. And something that small resonates with me because it's like y'all saying, the head coach set the tone. And so his energy, the fact that he's really detailed, he's really into analytics, and he allows us to have an impact on the program. And so he's grooming us to be head coaches. Like every decision we make, it's crazy, but he asks all of our opinion. And sometimes when I first got there, I wasn't used to that. So I try to give him a political answer and just, say something. He like, nope, you got to tell me. And it could be something simple as, if 2 recruits are calling you, which one you going to pick the phone up for? And I'd be like, whoever called first. He said, all right, say you got 2 phones and they call at the same time. Who you going to answer? Like, he ain't going to let you, he going to always make you help him make a decision. And to me, that's big, because for him to be the all-time winningest coach and he's asking all of our advice, then that shows me that when I become a head coach, then I make sure that I include my staff on every decision.
That's great. Tang, you've been with him for forever, and so I know you know the insides and outs of him. So what would you say? And obviously a huge reason why, too, I'd be remiss to say about Baylor's success as well as AB3. You guys have done an outstanding job.
I have to agree with Al. He really trusts his staff and values everyone's opinion to a fault. Like, it frustrates me, so but my man, like, he doesn't have bad days. He just doesn't. And we celebrate wins regardless of, like, if you play a close game against a team you should have blown out, he's walking in talking about, hey, we're going to celebrate, and so it's, I think having a dad that was in the business, like, I have a great quality of life. All right. That's what he allows me to have, a great quality. Like he says, be in the office at this time. Right. But it's not no crazy time, like 9:30. And if you're going to be late, send him a text message, like he'll come in and be like, hey, we here for 2 hours and then we're going home. It's just like, I have a great quality of life. And so he allows me to be a dad and a husband and, just those things. And so, and I think because he understands the balance of it, and we've been given time, Wyking wasn't given time, Kareem wasn't given time. They told us we didn't have to win for 8 years. So we could be patient and make him be patient, and not make them, bad decisions maybe that we would have done differently if we didn't have that time. So that has allowed us to be successful.
And then I'll flip it and I'll go with what I say, Wyking first, and this will be in regards to Rick Pitino. And obviously we can all have our own perception of Rick Pitino and his career or whatever, but I don't think anybody on the line can say that, between the lines and what he does from a culture standpoint and basketball standpoint is not at a high level. So we can always learn something from that. And so what would you say separates Coach Pitino from other coaches in the business and what makes him elite?
His ability to get the most out of every single human being in the program. Like, we be in practice and the managers aren't on top of their game. He getting their ass. Now they're on top of their game. The assistants, the trainer, the strength and conditioning coach, he just made sure that everybody brought it every single day, you know, and you knew that it was almost like that Jordan documentary. You knew that he was going to work harder than all of us. So it wasn't a situation where your head coach is slacking, but he's demanding the world of you. That dude is shit. He's in the office. We got to be in at 7. He's in there at 6:30, you know, on the treadmill, on the elliptical. He's working just as hard, watching just as much film as we are as assistants. So his ability to get the most out of you, and you know, being a high major program, coach wasn't caught up in, you know, top, you know, 4-star, 5-star, all that bullshit. Do we like this kid? Can this kid play? Terry Rozier, he's a 3-star, but I love him, so let's try to get him. And Montrezl Harrell, not in the top 150. I like him. Let's get him. You know, and so, you know, and then once kids got there, Kareem can attest to this. Our individual instruction program was unbelievable, you know, and it made for long days for us as assistants. I mean, shit, you come in at 7, we're starting the guards at 9 to 9:45. Then we got the wings from 10 to 10:45. Then we got the bigs from 11 to 11:45, and then practice starts at 2:30. So it made for very, very long days, but we, you know, we got the benefit of guys that weren't big time recruits coming out of high school being household names. Russ Smith was like a 2-star coming out of high school. He wasn't, you know, nobody wanted him. Coach Pitino took him because he knew Russ's dad in New York growing up. So just, you know, his ability to get the most out of every single person in the program, and I would say skill development, and then in-game adjustments. You know, we go in at halftime and completely change up our whole coverage defensively. Scrap everything we've been working on for the last 3 days. We're not going to guard it that way. We're going to guard it this way in the second half. And that's what we would do. We win games.
It's awesome. Kareem?
No, I agree with Wyking 100%. I mean, his ability to draw out of people. I mean, shoot, man. I mean, you think like the Final Four, our championship game, we're down and we bring it. Our Final Four game against Wichita State, we bring in a walk-on, Tim Henderson. I mean, he comes in and hits 2 big threes just because Coach was able to draw the best out of people, but not also draw, but instilled so much confidence through hard work that to Wyking's point, man. From Gorgie Zhang to Tim Henderson, who was a walk-on. Everybody thought they could ball, you know, because of what coach instilled in the guys, and it was, I mean, just remarkable from that standpoint. I know we got to get going. My last thing, I always like to, and this was further from Coach P, but it's kind of been my thing anyway. But going to working with him and talking about assistants and aspiring, and I know there's a lot of different things, but man, we can never ever, and Monty, we talk about this, ever forget about our physical attribute, about all of us, man, working out this thing. First of all, it's a grind, as we all talk about. Being in decent shape has saved my life literally 3 times. A pulmonary embolism that should have killed me, but because I was in decent shape, collapsed lungs that they don't know how I was still breathing, and then another blood clot. And all the doctors told me because of being in decent shape. But that's for our personal well-being and making sure, because it is so stressful, that you guys are freaking getting your workouts in, but also as aspiring people that are trying to move up in the business and become head coaches. And when you got to go out there after you work on your public speaking game, you got to look the part, man. Like your players, in my opinion, now it's my opinion, they will respect you when you go tell a dude to go get his ass on a treadmill and be in shape if you look the part. But so I think that's so freaking huge, man, that we can't ever forget about taking care of ourselves.
Well, no, and that's great, because we ended it last week with Sean Forrest from Georgia Southern talking about, you know, the importance of getting checked, and he's got a great story, and I think Sean dropped his number in the chat. and so if you want to hear his story, please feel free to call him. But a guy who was just happened to go to the doctor because his wife said go to the doctor, and he finds out he has cancer, and he's at the grind at SMU, and he would have been moving around, shaking, and never went to the doctor, and who knows what the results will be. But take care of yourselves and make sure we get checked, and then I'll let Coach Burton kind of end it here, and we appreciate everybody's time, all the guys who spoke, and all the guys who threw out questions, and just everybody who jumped on. I hope you all got something from it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for everybody who spoke. Thanks, AB3, for your presentation. I think everybody took a lot away from it. And Coach Jones, man, big time of you to come on today and just share some things that a lot of people wouldn't share. So thank you so much for that, and everyone else who participated. Most of you have contact information for either me or Lamont, but if you don't, I will put mine in the chat so you can get that. Next week, we're going to talk analytics, so feel free to log in. But we do it every week, same time, not widely publicized, but share with anybody. We just want to keep continuing to share and grow. So, and that being said, we'll bow our heads in prayer and close out. Dear Lord, thanks so much for the time today that you've given us to connect and fellowship in the game we love, and in impacting our programs, our communities, and these young men's lives that we get an opportunity to coach, and young women. Thank you so much for the blessing of our health. Thank you so much for just the opportunity for those of us that are employed to still be in the situation employed, and for us to be able to connect with other people in the game we love. For those that are in between jobs or looking for jobs, we pray for those opportunities to come their way, and just bless everyone on this call abundantly and their families. We just pray you continue to watch over us during this unforeseen times, that we can be mindful and kind to others and encouraging to others, because we never know what someone else is going through. And let us just continue to count our own blessings and be as productive and safe as possible. We pray all these things in your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
all of y'all.
Good stuff, people.
Thank you.